G'day, mates. Welcome back to another episode. Alistair, we're back down to earth this week, mate. We had the high that was a couple of game weeks ago, pulling a star and a tier 1 respectively. But this week, things didn't quite work out as well. There was some bloody high scores around the division. Took us through the past week, mate. We've sort of managed to go a week without any huge controversy, I could almost say. Maybe.
We're back on. Sorare's back on, boys. We're all going to be in Lambos by Christmas again. Woohoo! Yeah, it was a weird weekend. Again, full of high hopes, especially after last week. I think when you have a win, you're just like you get lulled into this false sense of security that it's really easy and that you've figured it out. I think I had just one of those weekends where like every lineup was maybe just one score off. I know you had pretty much like all of your players performed really well. It's just one player let you down in your America team, and then obviously Tom Hay. We took the risk, both of us, on putting Tommy Hay in our lineups, and he couldn't get over his little sniffles, so he kind of ruined a couple of lineups for us both there. But yeah, it was very tough competition. Like I said, all of your players did really well, and you ended up with nothing.
Yeah, pretty disheartening. Like 340 points in Champ America. 4 out of my 5 players got a decisive. Got the Willis clean sheet. Mina got an assist, and Pedro got a goal. Montero got an assist. But one poor score from Pereira, and you miss out completely. Like it's just
disappointed.
And like you touched on there as well, even in my all-star team, they all crushed as well. It was just that Tom Hay had a big fat donut. So it's funny, like you say, like I've worked it out. It's easy to win. But it really is. It's just that lineup builder. You can't just have one win and then just be like, I'll just plug in these guys and not worry about it. Because if I had thought about my lineup and, played Willis instead of my other keeper, things like that, I had a tier 1 this week. So those little things, I know it's hard the more teams you get. I can't even do it and I have 2 teams. I don't know how you do it.
It's tricky. Yeah, I certainly am a full victim to the same thing. I pigeonhole players for certain competitions, and yeah, it's that trap of just one more lineup. It's because you'd think it makes sense. You put 2 lineups out, you got more than you got double the chance. But sometimes you just got to bite that bullet and put your 5 best guys in. And I think all your guys did get decisives, but none of them scored huge. And I think that really just goes to show that the players on the platform that have the most value are those players that have the abilities to hit the 80s and above. If and we'll probably talk about this a bit later on, but forwards who are decisive reliant are just useless now. Like, if you've got yourself a Haber in your team, I don't know if anyone out there is gullible enough to pick one of them up, but
Ooh, burn!
He's playing for a great team. He's banging in every 9 or 10 shots he bangs in a goal. Pretty great, but he just scores 60 points, and that's basically nothing if you want to try and compete. So, yeah, it's getting harder and harder. I think everyone thought Zenit stacks were going to ruin this game week, but they actually, Douglas Santos was out. So, yeah, it was, I don't know, it's getting harder, but...
Yeah, I think the forwards are the hardest. I mean, this week, Droisi got 57 without a decisive, which... you go, okay, he hasn't got the decisive. You don't think much of it, but you're right. Like, it's 4 points less than the guy that you've just celebrated scoring. Like, AA game is so underrated. And, I think we've talked a lot about those players, and especially in America, where, yeah, they might be decisive dangerous, but it's the weeks they don't hit that decisive and they get a 39. That's what kills your lineup compared to, like, your Tom Hayes, those guys that we have that, they, even without a decisive, they can still keep you alive in the week.
That's it. I mean, that was very promising this week, the fact that Droisi almost hit 60 with all that with AA, because you'd still expect him to get decisives pretty regularly. He takes pens, takes some of the free kicks. So even though he didn't hit the decisive this week, I'd much prefer to see that and miss out on a reward, but know that, if I keep plugging him in and he keeps doing what he's doing, eventually that 90 or so is going to come. So, yeah, it was, it's, definitely a tricky week on Sorare.
And there's also the CONCACAF has kicked off, which has just brought all sorts of chaos. I'm not sure if you tuned in onto Twitter. I mean, another mistake at the back from Austin. Our boy Amro Tarek got a start. Have you seen the footage? And he literally just boots it into the back of his own net.
I mean, look, is there some Haitian match fixing going on? I mean, they're playing at what looks like, a high school oval. There's a tree where a grandstand should be. There's dogs on the pitch.
The dog ran on to take a ball. I was like, what is going on right now?
Oh, I love it. CONCACAF is the best, or CONCAWolf, as I said on Twitter, which is a pretty hilarious play on words.
That's so funny.
It's the best. I mean, terrible if you are stacking your MLS players this midweek for the CONCACAF, because I think they all pretty much stank. So not great, but love to watch a bit of CONCACAF.
And now I just want to touch on this quickly. I know when people tune into their podcast, they really want to hear about my personal accolades. So I thought I would share it with them. Obviously being a soccer-based podcast, I just want to let the listeners know that I am at that level of those high-quality players that we talk about week in, week out.
It's totally made up. Pure fiction. It's fiction. It's fiction.
My opinion is validated through the fact that on my futsal debut on Monday, my first ever game, never played before, 4 goals.
4 none, Jeremy. 4? That's insane.
Wow.
4 goals. Now, what made me want to bring this up, apart from to, get some validation that I am talented and, the next big thing, is that something I haven't told you throughout the week. I had scored 4 goals, which is great, like amazing. But I had an Amro Tarek moment.
Oh, no.
I was coming back. The goal, the ball was dribbling towards the goalie. He had it covered, but I thought someone might have been coming in. I've come in with a big slide to clear it. Completely botched it off the bottom of my foot, nutmeg my own keeper for an own goal.
Oh, you did not tell me that. Oh, dear. Oh, that's the worst. But I can just picture the Sorare notification now.
Oh,
so clumsy.
Ruined someone's game week. I've got the negative decisive, but
look, Simon, that own goal aside, 4 decisives. I mean, it really begs the question. When's your Sorare card coming out? Are we forgetting about the A League? Are we all in on the Melbourne Inner City Futsal League? Yeah,
Fundora Futsal League. Let's get it onboarded. Mate, my auction's going to go for millions.
OP'd.
Now, another thing that we want to talk about is the new tiers. So obviously we missed out this week by not many points. The new tiers have been announced. I believe that you said that it won't really necessarily mean more rewards. It just might mean more accurate rewards. Is that fair?
I think to begin with, they haven't really specified. I haven't really done any homework to back this up, but I think it's still the same. I would hope that moving forward they would expand the prize pools a little bit so that, players like yourself, you hit 350 points, missed out on a tier 3, if there was a tier 5 that you could pick up, an Amro Tarek that you could get, just for having a good crack at it, that would make, I think that would soften the blow a little bit. But no, I think it's just more, it's more so that now you will get a more accurate description of what card you're going to win. So if you come second to last in All-Star Rare, you're going to get a tier 5. It's going to be a stinker. Whereas if you kind of finish middle of the pack and you get a tier 3, you now don't have to worry about, oh God, what if I get some awful, I got a tier 2 last weekend. And sure, he's under 23, but my God, he's awful. He's from Austria. I think he starts every game and hasn't cracked 30 for the entire season. He's worth 0.01 ETH, and that's a tier 2. So, I mean, it wasn't quite bad enough that I was going to swap it. I couldn't be bothered. But I would. It's nice to know that next week, if I win a tier 2, I know it's actually going to be a decent card.
Okay. So the tier 5s, is that just going to be DNPs? Because that's been floated around for a while.
No, but I think they should add that. I don't think I think the tier 5s are just your bog average players who are never really going to go anywhere.
But that's good though, because like it just seems it doesn't seem right to be like, oh, I've won a tier 3, and then you pull it and it's like some absolute shocker. Like at least if you're like, okay, cool, I got a tier 5. There's no like, you still got that feeling of you've won something. You get to open something, but you're not. There's no expectations.
Yeah, I think also it probably makes the most difference at the top of the pools. A friend of ours won a star this weekend. Granted, he finished towards the bottom of the star pool, but he won a Diogo Dalot from Manchester United, which, don't get me wrong, he's a good player, but would you, is that really a star? Like, are you excited about a Diogo Dalot? Probably not. So hopefully now, if it's like you finish with that tier 0, you can kind of go to sleep knowing that you're going to get something pretty epic in the morning. And I'm looking at the prize pools this week. I might be able to get them up. Hold on. Let's have a look here. Alrighty.
6.5 hours later.
No, never mind. I'm not logged in. Classic. Looking at the prize pools this week, the stars are stars. So I think it's a good move, but I really don't think it's going to change too much. What might change things is the Sorare coins. Did you win your first Sorare coins this week?
I'm not sure. I haven't checked. I just knew I didn't win a card. So like I said on last week's episode, I don't really give a shit. So I haven't checked. No.
I believe I won some coins. I don't know how many I won, but I think that's exciting. I can't remember what. Let me see if I can find the Sorare Medium post about the shop, because I'm pretty sure like you get coins if you hit a certain threshold of points. So you might not win a card, but you could win coins, which again you could put towards tickets or jerseys or whatever, depending on how they roll that out.
Buying a nice cool banner for my club shop.
Yes, or a picture of a hamburger or something. Yeah,
Yeah, amazing.
So yeah, I think if that does eventuate and the shop is as cool as we all think it could be, then
just you,
look, hitting 300 points and winning some coins and potentially going out and buying a jersey with that, I'm stoked with that. It's better than a 0.01 tier 5.
You're right. That makes me feel way more, way cooler. Like sometimes, I feel a little bit self-conscious that I spend so much time and money on NFT soccer cards that I play in a fantasy game with players from all around the world. But you're right. I get to win some, made up coins so I can then go spend that. That makes me feel way better. Thanks. Appreciate it.
I think you're the only person left in the Sorare universe that is still like, a cynic when it comes to the Sorare shop. I think everyone's converted to the fact that this is awesome, what they've done with it. Like, and you're still here just like complaining, whinging away.
Always naysaying!
Mate, I've made my point. I'm gonna stand by it until I die.
All right. Well, look. I mean, there you go. One of like 2,000 coins. How to earn coins? Let me just have a look here.
I can't wait in like 5 weeks' time when I've just like bought like an Austin FC jersey with my coins, and I'm like, this is the best thing ever. Oh my god.
Yeah, I think we'll get you to come around soon. I think we'll get you to come around. I'm pretty high on it. This is the shop at the moment, so there's nothing in there yet. But basically, it says depending on how high you score, the more coins you'll earn. So it sounds like you'll win coins regardless. So at the moment, you can only buy skins. Soon they're going to be bringing in boosts, which I don't know. I think there's been a fair bit of discussion about that. But then, pick from a range of match tickets, jerseys, sign merch. I'm all aboard.
If they're giving extra XP though, and you get coins from every team you enter, is that not just going to like give the bigger galleries in the whales an even more advantage against the people like me, because they can have more XP because they can just keep rolling out shitty lineups and earning more coins?
Yeah, probably. But I think this conversation always kind of circles back on itself, where it's like, well, do they deserve to have an advantage because they've put,
No, they don't, mate.
Into the platform.
Stop trying to speak whale. You're going to make things worse.
I don't think that's not how it works, though.
the other thing as well, like PSU fans mentioned this because he too was like you. He was a cynic on the Sorare shop, but he's since come around, and he was like, for a gallery of my size, like, yeah, I might use some of my coins to get XP boosts, but I've already got a competitive advantage just from the gallery that I have. I'll probably spend my coins on jerseys and tickets and stuff like that. So I don't think you can assume that they're just going to necessarily put everything into XP. But yeah, it is certainly a concern in that it could widen that gap. But I suppose it's just incentive to try and get more teams out and try and perform better. There's a lot of like communism in the Sorare world where they're like, damn these overlords with all their wealth. Why don't you give some of that wealth to us? I have nothing and you have everything, please.
In recognizing a communist, physical appearance counts for nothing.
Next thing we'll have bloody Pavel Trader turning into Stalin, and then we'll have Cold Wars. It'll be awful.
All right, yeah, it's a fair point. Let the whales be whales.
I love the whales. Bring on the whales. I mean, there's the whales. We love whales. I love whales. The country, the fish, the Sorare player. I love them all.
When you hear the word whales, you probably think of the fish with the biggest dick.
Okay, well, look, I will say this. Look, the jerseys and the match day experiences, I like that. Now, it sort of leads into what we'd sort of discuss during the week in terms of our big question is sort of where do we see Sorare in the next 5 years? Obviously, the past, what feels like a year and a half has been pretty tumultuous. A lot of panic. We're panic stationing more often than we're congratulating. Where do you see the platform going? For me, personally, to jump in quickly, I think the biggest potential for Sorare, if it's going to make that next step up, is have obviously the big money is in broadcasting, right? And if we can get streams of all the games or clips of when your guy scores a goal and you get a notification, you tap on it and it has a little 10-second clip, that is where I think Sorare goes to the moon. We've seen how successful it is with betting apps and things like that. If we could get that, that's when I could really see it becoming mainstream and going to the next level.
I think the gambling side of things, not that it is a gambling website, but I think for people who love to gamble, I think if they discover Sorare, it really is it's just such a better option if you're into that kind of thing than, putting a bet on. It doesn't happen. You lose your money. The fact that you can own your stake in it, own these cards. Sure, if they don't score a goal and you don't win anything, you move on to the next week and you've still got them. You don't have to put another, you don't have to lose that money, that stake immediately. So I think, yeah, you're right. If they, like you and I both use Bet365, not to gamble on anything, but just to watch the live streams of some backyard Ecuadorian league,
like the Chilean league, where it's basically 4 big pixels on the screen.
Yeah.
I can see half of Zampedri's face, but he kind of looks like a cactus. And
you try and keep up with the Spanish commentary and listen for your player's name. It's very exciting.
It's like what is Zampedri? Oh, it's kind of hectic. I kind of love it.
No.
6.5 hours later.
No.
The thing is, I actually wasn't sure if your screen had frozen then, and I was kind of freaking out, but you were that just whew.
I was in the zone. I've watched a lot of Ecuadorian league.
That was impressive.
Apologies for the listener there. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I think the broadcast thing, if they get some kind of partnership deal, I mean that's huge. Yeah, I think in terms of because you're right. We've seen a lot of negativity over the last couple of months. We've seen some real ups and downs. It seems like in Sorare every week is you don't know if the sentiment's going to be good or bad. And I've always said to go on Twitter and tear down the platform because you're unhappy because you didn't win a reward or something. It's like keying your own car. It just makes no sense. We should be really getting behind the platform, giving constructive feedback where we can. Obviously, Sorare is certainly not perfect, but my God, everyone's complaining about their gallery value going down, but it's only going to go down further if people don't want to sign up and join the game. And if they go on Twitter and you see everyone bitching and moaning about how horrible Sorare is, guess what? Your gallery value is going to keep going down because they need new users to make sure they can keep paying for all the licenses and the things that make the game run. So I think today is a good opportunity to talk about the bright sides, the positives. Where do we see it going? What are some of the cool things that could happen in Sorare? And how does that affect the way we look at it as a platform, as an investment vehicle, as a game? Yeah. So broadcasting, definitely. Have you got any other kind of grand ideas?
Oh, I was just pretty proud of that one. I was just going to touch on the fact that I do agree with, if you look at it from a long-term perspective, probably what we've been guilty of is, you see the gallery going down, or, you see the results and you're making rash decisions, selling at a loss or like at a low, because you're trying to rush to get certain pieces in. But if you can treat it and keep that long-term mindset, that's when I think you'll benefit in a SO5 standpoint as well, because if you look at it from a 5-year perspective, that's a long time from now. Like, you don't need to change everything, and you're not going to win just overnight. Like, if you just keep building at it, that's when you'll have the success.
That's it. You're absolutely right. I mean, we could do a whole episode on the number of cards that I've either won as rewards or have traded away or have been offered in trades that I didn't accept, that have since gone on to be like some of the best players in the world. You might remember when I was trying to sell my Julian Alvarez, who obviously superstar at City, not performing that well from a Sorare point of view. I was concerned that he wasn't going to be giving me the SO5 output, so I put him up for sale. Someone offered me a certain Enzo Fernandez rare, and I was like, no thanks. I'm trying to get out of U23s. I'd rather have the ETH. And I think since then, like, Enzo went on to be like a 3-4 ETH card. And it's like I didn't have that long term view of like, well, I know this guy is like a young superstar. I'm gonna same with you could say the same about Julian Alvarez. I'm sure in a year's time, I'm going to be absolutely kicking myself that card is not in my gallery. But I'm taking a different approach. I'm focusing on trying to win now. But yeah, you're right. Like, the best thing about Sorare is that you own these assets and you can use them forever, hopefully. So yeah, definitely a long-term view is always going to help.
Do you think there's a point where, I think we've touched on this before, but like, is there a point where you don't see yourself involved with Sorare in, say 2, 3, 5 years?
A very good question. Yeah, totally. I think right now we are in a real lull. I don't think it's entirely because, Sorare has lost the plot, or that, they're oversupplying. I think there's a lot of factors. We've already spoken about them ad nauseum. I do believe that, as with any market, there will be an upturn. And certainly at that point, I may look at cashing out. Not entirely, because I do love the game so much. But I think learning from, I mentioned a couple of episodes ago, like, when you're in the downturn, it seems like it's never going to turn around. And the same is true for the inverse. When everything's flying high and people are paying 1 ETH for a Lucas Ian, and things are going to the moon, your instinct is not to sell, because you're like, well, how much further could this go? Like, this could just get more. I could make more and more money if I just keep riding this train. And then of course it goes down and you have that regret. So I think if we saw another kind of boom or another influx of new users and things started to go up again, I would certainly consider looking at trying to sell a bit of sell out a little bit, at least to a point where, like, I'm playing with house money. That's kind of my goal, is to get to a point where I withdraw what I've put in, and then it's just whatever I've got left is just free gravy.
Yeah, I think so. And I think you made a really good point a couple of episodes when the Prem got announced. Obviously it's had issues with, over the auctioning of cards being too overwhelming for the market and things like that. But you made a really good point of like, if you just thought that when the Premier League came that everything was going to completely change and Sorare was going to go to the moon, it's, they're getting them on the free to play and then trying to convert them across. And, I do think that in that year, 2 years, as those guys, come on board more, that's when we're going to see things really take up. I think it doesn't help, obviously, the world's financial situation at the moment with everything going on.
Yeah.
A soccer NFT card's never going to be a priority, but I really do think, and like you look at Bitcoin or just even cryptocurrencies in the past, they go on these long runs where nothing's happening and everyone's like, oh, suck shit. And then all of a sudden, bang. And like my only concern is with the so many leagues and like cards being minted every year. What happens in the down periods, because they're still like minting cards as if it was, mid 2019. But I can definitely see when some more money starts circling around, people have some more free cash to spend. I mean, we've talked about in length about how great Sorare is a product. Like, asked me 2 weeks ago, and I was like, this is the best thing ever.
Yeah. Oh, Tom Hayes out with illness. I hate this game. I'm selling everything.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think there's so much opportunity for Sorare to like, and I think it all revolves around, as long as they keep reinvesting some of the money that they're earning from this growth into good rewards. It doesn't necessarily need to be like ETH rewards. I think that's what they've done recently with adding ETH to the top 100 and stuff like that. That's massive, because the more people see this as a way that they can potentially yield, at the end of the day, that's going to be more attractive to anyone, rather than, oh, look, there's these cars you can collect. That's attractive to a certain group of people. But some of the stuff they've been doing lately with like, you put your cards in this competition, and if you come in the top 5, you get to travel to watch an Inter Milan training session and go on their plane and travel to the game with them and stuff. Like that stuff's really cool. And it probably isn't really spoken about enough, just how like these real world experiences. And I think it's only going to get cooler and cooler. Like I have this kind of idea of like, the more they get these partnerships with different leagues and different clubs, the Sorare NFTs that you own being, access tickets to things like, you potentially you could buy, if they launch Melbourne City on the platform and they release, just a limited run of like members edition NFTs. And if you buy one of those NFTs, you become a member of the Melbourne City Football Club, or like just all these different ways that we can use the NFTs in real life. I think that's really cool. And it's such a huge opportunity, but that is predicated on more widespread adoption of NFTs, which right now is probably not a great time for that, because everyone thinks NFTs are a scam because of all the NFT scams. So yeah, I think there's so much opportunity there, as long as the rewards remain attractive enough.
Do you ever see a crossover from Sorare football to Sorare NBA, Sorare basketball?
Yeah, I can't see why
Baseball,
not,
sorry.
especially if they keep onboarding different sports, like, run a kind of multi-league where it's like, you put in a couple of players from basketball, put in a couple of players from, and MLB or whatever it might be. I think they're, and I mean, this could be a while off, but wouldn't it be cool? I mean, you play FIFA, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes. Wouldn't it be cool if FIFA and Sorare had a partnership, and the cards you own in Sorare you own in FIFA as well? And rather than you pack your Druisi and then you lose him at the end of the year, if you have his Sorare NFT, you just have him in FIFA, and it ticks over to the next FIFA and the next FIFA until you sell that card. Like, there's these partnership opportunities and the technology behind NFTs where you can just plug the API into your game, into your website. We've seen it with like Sorare Mega and some of those other like off-platform games. Like, we haven't even really scratched the surface of like using Sorare NFTs for other things. I think it gets pretty wild when you think of what you could do with them.
It's great. I mean, my FIFA team would be awful because all the MLS players are horribly rated on FIFA.
Yeah, well,
But
there you go. But imagine like if, yeah, you had like these big FIFA YouTubers who, you know, you watch these videos where they unpack a Messi and it's like, oh my god.
they
But
throw like a chair at their TV
think
and
about
shit.
how much value that Sorare NFT of Messi will have if it also has utility in FIFA. Like, and then all of a sudden, you know, talk about like a cash injection into the market. That's massive.
And it's a hard one to have any sort of measurable to see the measurable impact that it's had. But think about all these clubs that we follow. Think about like I follow Austin FC on Instagram. You know, I follow Portland. I watch their games. I'm tuning in. I'm buying their merch. Like you can't really put your finger on the impact that Sorare has on that, but Sorare's impact on global football is ginormous. Like I didn't even know what the MLS was before. Like all these leagues, all these players,
Yeah,
it does such a good job at like shining the light on these smaller leagues and being like, hey, here's a reason why you should get into this league. That's why everyone thinks I'm a fucking weirdo because I watch the MLS. But you know, it's good.
Yeah. People are either really weirded out or really impressed.
Mostly
you're like,
weirded
oh
out.
yeah, I know, the Belgian league. Oh, okay.
Mostly weird.
I think that's another area where it's really untapped. Sorare probably hasn't done enough in terms of like educating clubs to actually make the most of it. Like, think about what they could be doing on a club level. Like everyone who comes to the game, you don't even have to have the Sorare app, but if they just have some kind of like installation where you create your own SO5, you pick your own 5 common cards from Melbourne City, and you just see how they perform in that game, and the person who gets the highest score wins a jersey or something. Like just those little introductions to the concept of SO5 and Sorare. Like if clubs really lean into that, I think I don't think there's been enough clubs that are like early adopters to this NFT thing. They're kind of like, yep, here's our Sorare cards, but no one's really taken advantage of it.
Yeah, and like that all ties in with membership and some of those things you sort of touched on as well earlier. It's only a win for these clubs, but it's, I guess, to sort of wrap up this discussion, the biggest elephant in the room, I guess, is I think Sorare itself is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the fact that it is linked so heavily and reliant on Ethereum and NFTs, right? And that's where it's harder to get people on board because it's something new and it's something that's not very popular at the moment.
Yeah, but I totally, I know Sorare are like, no, we are continuing to stay on Ethereum. We're continuing to stay as an NFT platform because that is the future of it. People can't see that right now. It's not a good time to be in NFTs, but the advantages that come with having these utility-driven NFTs is just so huge, and we haven't even scratched the surface yet. And if they were to move off the blockchain, then all of a sudden you lose all of the benefits of being on the blockchain. I think I wouldn't say that many people around the world really even understand what NFTs are, how they can be used. Most of them think it's just a picture of a monkey that's overpriced, but there's so much more to that. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. Honestly, Sorare's biggest challenge at the moment is just its community. They're just so toxic at the moment, and it is just disheartening to see. I'm all for feedback. I'm all for constructive criticism, but Sorare, I think, have just kicked so many goals in the last 12 months, and it just seems like all these people who are whining about not instantly being able to, withdraw millions from the platform. They're only, cutting off their nose to spite their face. It's ridiculous. So come on, guys, cheer up. Think about how great it is. I didn't win shit on the weekend, and I'm having a great time. I'm ready for week number 2. I'm watching CONCACAF. I'm watching dogs run on the field. I love it. Let's go.
Mate, we've got our we'll move on to our next section of the show. One of our favorite sections of the show is our beloved underdog boys. Now, if you're talking about some resilience and having to suck it up and smile and say everything's okay. It's watching those boys in green.
Oh, mate, tough weekend for the underdogs. No one could have seen this coming, but the breezy boy, the windiest man on the planet.
I am the angry crab of trapped wind. Ooh!
Jonas Wind, benched, didn't even come on the field. I mean, he hadn't been scoring goals, so I can't say we're too surprised. But look, I think we might need to go and buy another striker. So that we've won. Remember, we won a $3 card a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah,
and we were on track for the Wolfsburg pin. You may remember.
Yes. Oh, of course. I've been thinking about it
We
every
may now
night.
be in the negatives because we've got to go and buy another striker. So the pin it gets ever more elusive. It's tough times. Look, we had a pretty rough old matchup. Maxi Arnold does what Maxi Arnold does. The big Arn. And who else did well? Wimmer came through with a goal, but defense let us down. Goalkeeper let in a bunch. So pretty mediocre week from the boys in green. But
Yeah,
that's okay. You've been doing a bit of research. You've been digging in deep into the annals of Wolfsburg history. Tell us what you got.
I have been digging deep, mate. And when I say digging deep, I literally mean digging deep because it actually was surprisingly hard to find anything that's like remotely interesting about Wolfsburg, apart from the fact that they're owned by Volkswagen. Like it seems to be their main thing. But I thought one of the most interesting things about our beloved boys is they're the boys in green. Obviously, Otavio's green is a little bit slightly brighter than the others.
He's a little bit different.
He's my special boy.
Now, of course, the green, it actually goes all the way back to 1945. So apparently a youth welfare worker, Bernward Gilberskirch,
Bernie.
was just walking around, looking out, trying to find some kit for some of the factory workers, and stumbled across supposedly 10 random green jerseys. Okay, so he's gone, sweet, times are tough.
Just
Those
like
are
in a ditch or
just apparently in a ditch.
bin?
Picked them up, and then what Bernward Gilberskirch did, he put the word out, and the community donated their bed sheets, in which then the club then sewed together to make the playing shorts.
Wow. What a tale of community coming together.
And that's how the boys in green were made. And the club was actually originally called, I think it is still called, VfL Wolfsburg.
Yeah.
Which I found out stands for Verein für Liebersbergen, which means Club for Physical Activity. So isn't that lovely?
Club for physical activity. I love it. That's so nice.
So lovely.
They're all wearing sheets for shorts. They've got some dumpster jerseys. It's a club for leisurely activity. The boys in green. We love it.
It's the club. They're the club for us. They're the club for you. We love you, Wolfsburg. Never change.
It just makes me want to go and do some physical activity with my factory worker colleagues.
So lovely. So there you go. That's our stat.
That's amazing.
Fact.
Thanks for that, Simon. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You so much.
You're welcome. Now, this week we don't really have any sell highs because there's really no one to sell high at the moment. So I thought, for time's sake, should we tap into some players that are undervalued? And mate, I'll say it again. I'll keep singing your praises. You've kind of been on fire with these lately, so I'm going to hand over to you. You take the wheel. Take the wheel.
Thank you. Jesus, take the wheel. Yeah, I have been on fire with a lot of things. I'm pretty sure I predicted that Seattle were going to be great this year. Nailed that. Pretty much all of my buy lows have come to fruition, more or less, which is great. Sell highs, I mean, Evander I was spot on with. Carlos Heel didn't really perform on the weekend, so the jury's still out. So, look, I mean, is it arrogant to say I might be the greatest footballing mind in Sorare history? I'll let you decide. But look, we've got a couple more for you anyway. Let's make some money.
I let the stocks decide my moves.
Fuck! Damn it!
Wait, is green good? Green's good. Okay, never mind.
All right. A couple of easy ones. First one. This one's a little bit more because I think a lot of the time I'm probably accused of being a little bit too elitist and being like, oh look, go and pick yourself up a Kimmich. He's only 3 ETH. He's normally 5 ETH. But this one's really out there for those kind of budget players looking to break into rare. Let me share my screen because last week I completely forgot to do that. All right. Okay, so the first one. This man, handsome devil, wearing the wrong kit for some reason. Steph Peters. So I'm sure those who've played Sorare for a while know of Steph Peters. He is currently going for under $100 for the rare. 0.54 as well in the super rare, which is pretty tasty actually. I mean, I think there's some rumors about him being unhappy at the club. I'd be unhappy at Eupen as well. They seem like such a boring club. It's got a boring logo, boring jersey. But Steph does really well. If you look at these scores, let's look at these scores. A couple of hundies in there, pretty much banging out a 60 or a 70 regardless. You know, he's got AA, he's got assists. I'm pretty sure he takes pens. I mean, Simon, you be the judge. What do you think of these scores?
Plenty of juicy greens in there for 0.06. I know you'd sort of said, look, okay, I was going to say he's got a few 90s and 100s in there, but seems to be very much the 60s are where it's at. But that is great for 0.06. I mean, if you're looking for a budget option, I will give you that. How long have we got left in the Belgium season, though?
That's a good question. But I think this kind of comes, well, not that long, but kind of comes to my point of like, yes, there's probably, is that 6 games left? God, that's not a lot, is it? But now's the time to be picking up some bargains. I mean, unless you're all in on MLS, fair enough. But I mean, pick up someone like this, you can yield for another almost 2 months with him. And then, look, I can't imagine a 31-year-old guy from the Belgian league's like going to go to Man United and die on the bench. I think he's going to very much stay alive, probably stay in the same league if he does leave. And, when's the season start again? Like July? That's nothing.
Yeah.
So
Nothing.
I think if you're really committed to, like we said, the long-term view on this game, players who are fantastic but are coming to the end of their season, now's the time. Hoover them up.
Love it. All right, Steph Peters, who else have you got for us?
This one's a little bit more elitist, but this is a man who's been, had his face plastered around the Sorare community of late due to our Lord and Saviour, Quinny, winning him as a super rare not too long ago. Created a bit of debate as to whether it was a good super rare or not. Their season doesn't start again until 361, so another couple of weeks. But then they play for pretty much all through the MLS season. So they're pretty much the only European league running over the off-season. So, roll this guy out in Challenger Europe and you're off. Problem is you have to buy the rest of the stack. But he's currently going for 0.3. Well, his last sale was 0.292. He is injured, but that's not really an issue if he's starting in a couple of weeks anyway. But wait, you're talking about some tasty greens. Look at the depth on this. Woof.
Yeah.
I say again, look at those scores. 100, 90, 80. He's just obliterating it. That's
Centre mid.
Yeah, I think he's a number 10. He's getting lots of assists there, obviously. Scores okay with AA, but yeah, talk about, you need those big dark greens in order to compete. This guy's your fella. I think him being injured means he's probably not on the radar of any big clubs just yet. I feel like he's going to see out the rest of the season in Norway. I think this is Norway.
Denmark.
And I mean, just from a just traditional markets point of view, if we look at his scores, his prices, sorry, this was like a 2 ETH card at one point when he first came out. Obviously it dropped away a little bit after that, but he was an ETH card up until May. It's just slowly been dripping down because, people can't look beyond the next couple of months. I mean, this is like Messi style scores for, a fifth of the price. So definitely one to keep an eye on.
There you go. The Danish Messi. You've heard it here first on the Sorare Down Under podcast.
That's it. The Danish Messi. So you got to wait till April to play him. But if you've got a bit of patience and a bit of ETH up your sleeve, he could be your guy.
Love it. All right. Well, what about your week ahead? I know we touched on the week that went, and it wasn't amazing.
Yeah.
But the beauty of Sorare is that we're now filled with new hope and new promise that things are going to get better.
No question about it. I am ready to get hurt again.
Yeah, look, I wouldn't say I'm like crazily confident about the week ahead. I don't have a lot of confidence in my super rares at the moment. I've got a couple of nice super rares that have the potential to go big, but they're all in kind of situations where I don't have that confidence. So like Shin Jin Ho, great example of a player where like, look, he's still banging out like 55, 60 without a decisive, but he hasn't got a decisive yet. And I watched their game on the weekend, funnily enough, and he's good. He's really good, but he was playing a bit more like defensive mid. He didn't seem to be that willing to like get up the pitch. He was kind of hanging back and just doing his thing. And I'm like, God, am I never going to get an assist from Sinjin again? But I'm sure I will. He's still taking corners. He's still taking sets, so it should be fine. But just need to get that first notification to make me feel like things are all right again. So I think I'm actually, for my like podium dangerous team of the week, I'm actually going to go away from my traditional all-star rare. I think my best team of the week is this Asian lineup. Speaking of Shin Jin Ho, I think every player here is an unreal fixture. Langerak against Raysol, Sho Sasaki against Gamba, who have been awful. Shinjin, I mean, come on, it's got to happen. Cecilia, he's Cecilia. And then Wakazaka against Nagata, who have been pretty good, but they are still, a newly promoted J2 team. So I feel like in a world in which, K-League and J-League are a dirty word, hopefully everyone's putting their good Asian players into All-Star or All-Star Pro, and I can just clean up in Asia Rare.
Mate, when people zig, you zag.
That's it. When people zig,
Love it.
You got to see all.
Well, you know what I'm going to do, mate? When people zig, I'm also zigging, and everyone's going into All-Star to win ETH. So that's exactly where I'm going. Straight into the contest.
Yeah.
Straight into the heat of battle. And going to roll out the big boys once again. And, mate, this is pretty big. But I think Buttery Joe might have worked his way into my big team. Wait,
I think
back,
he might
back
have.
cleanies.
They're playing Montreal this weekend, if I'm not mistaken.
That is correct. 14th place team.
14th place team. One of the best. So that begs the question, Simon, what are you going to do about America?
Well, it's either run my sort of leftover boys, Zampedris, Monteros, etc. I can't because I don't have a goalkeeper.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think I was having a fiddle before. I think I did 270. I might go 240 and 270 and then do All-Star. Because as we learnt this week, don't worsen your best lineup to make another lineup. So I'm going to follow my advice because my second division Spanish keepers got literally playing the best team and they're last. So that's fun. And then the guy from Europe's playing Charleroi and they've got Van Cleanport's boots. So they're stuffed.
Look at you saying all the European team names like you're some kind of expert. I love it.
I've changed, mate. I've grown. This is what Sorare's done for me.
Now, speaking of matchups, we all know Lucas Zelarayan can be, hit or miss. Tommy Hay is up against Ajax. Now, that does not necessarily mean, as we know with Tommy Hay, because as we know, some of his best work is done in a 4-1 defeat. They're playing Ajax this weekend. Zelarayan playing Toronto. Are you ready to get hurt again?
I'll just say this: I'm not putting Tommy Hay in.
No, you're gonna withdraw from the safe, warm bosom of Tom.
Well, I don't want to, but is he definitely back from this illness?
I don't know. We don't know what he's got.
That's what I mean. Like, I want Tommy Hay's warm bosom with me every week, but I'm scared. I've been hurt.
What if he's got osteoporosis?
He's got AIDS. It's just an illness. He's lost a limb.
He doesn't have AIDS.
Because the thing is that Zeller, we know, like, look on the weekend, you talk about a player that can hit 100, he is that guy, but it's just so nerve-wracking knowing that, and Toronto aren't that good, but it's just, if he doesn't get a decisive, he could absolutely kill the lineup. Man, tough.
Yeah. I think, I mean, I'm assuming you'll go with the dual safety nets of Otamendi and Sho Sasaki. So you
Both
probably
with
do need
incredible
that.
matchup.
You probably do need that 100 maker in there somewhere.
I think go Zeller.
I would probably go Zeller. I mean, it's more exciting. Let's be honest.
It's true. My only other thing is Zampedri, Droisi. Now, Zampedri's like versing funnily enough, actually the 14th place team. Obviously, and they've been like crushing and scoring a lot of goals lately. Austin.
My issue with Zampedri is, I think last week he saved you, I remember, with the last gasp 96th minute goal. But prior to that, he was on 35. He did nothing. So, as we've just discussed, a 60 is not going to help you. Whereas Droisi has the ability to hit the 90. Who are they playing?
Austin. I did have it. I did know. Sorry. I was. Where are they? Oh, Real Salt Lake. That's right.
Should score 1 million. I'd go Droisi, I reckon. We'll need to do our research. He didn't play today. He didn't take on the many dogs of Haiti. He didn't even travel with the team. So is he injured? Does he have the same osteoporosis that Tom Hay does? I have to keep an eye on that one because I think we both thought, oh great, he's not playing. He must be just ready for the weekend. But maybe he's not playing because his leg has come off. Who knows?
I'm not gonna lie, like it did cross my mind when I sent you that message. It was like, oh, Droisi's, and you're like, oh, great, and I was like,
could be.
Is it?
Could be.
Is it? You okay? I don't know.
Oh, I love it. Alrighty.
I'll keep an eye on Droisi's socials. I'll be like a hawk, and I'll be making sure he's in the lineup. But mate, I've got good matchups this week. My hopes are up. I'm back. I'm ready. Let's make it another win.
Can't wait.
You're gonna get a message on like Saturday morning. I'm like, screw this game. It sucks.
Yeah. Zella's forgotten that it's his turn to pick up the kids, so he can't make it. Oh, it's a nightmare.
Oh, mate, we love it. All right, look, great ep. Look, Sorare to the moon the next 5 years. I think we've pretty much locked it in. We've mapped it all out. You'd already told them about bringing in the ETH rewards, and they brought that out about 2 days later. So I'm assuming the same is going to happen here. So looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Alrighty. Thanks, mates.
Best of luck this weekend. We'll catch you on the next ep.
Bye.
Bye.